Hey guys, in this video I'm going to be trying out Shark Byte HD digital FPV using iNav and my mini Talon. The hardware on the plane is a TX5S.1 200mW VTX and a Runcam Nano HD. I'll have a little chat about the positives and negatives of using this on a fixed wing a little bit later on. I'll also do a range test and then we'll finish off with a summary of what I think of this. But for now, let's just have a quick look at some footage. My first impression of the Shark Byte system is that it is a clearer and sharper image than analog. It's running 720p at 60 frames per second. So I mostly find when you're flying low and near objects, they are a lot clearer. But I'll do a side-by-side with analog later because I do feel like there are circumstances where analog is actually a better and sharper picture, strangely enough. The next thing I like is the way in which the image breaks up. So because it's digital feed, I thought it might be an all or nothing sort of approach so that you'd have clear video and then it might just completely drop out. But actually it breaks up very much in the same way as analog. You'll see the warning signs that you're about to lose your feed, as you'll see later on in the range test. The next thing is it's a fairly cheap way to get into HD FPV if that's what you want to do. This kit was around $320 when I purchased it, and that includes the Shark Byte receiver, the video transmitter, which is a 200mW, and also the Runcam Nano HD. The only thing you really need to add to that is a 5.8 GHz antenna to go on your video transmitter, but most of you will have one of them lying around. The receiver is designed to bolt onto your Fat Shark HDOs or the Attitude V3s, but it was a nice bonus for me that these also bolt straight onto the Skyzone 030s. The hardware itself seems pretty decent quality. I've had no issues with that at all. The parts that go on board the plane itself are really nice and light. It came with really comprehensive instructions for setting it up, so that was nice and easy. The updating of firmware on the VTX and the receiver module are also very easy. It's a simple case of downloading the file from the Fat Shark website, putting it onto a memory card, and then you put that memory card into the slot onto the Shark Byte receiver, and when you power it on, it basically updates itself. The iNav configuration was also very straightforward. There are 4 wires coming from the VTX. You have your positive and negative, and then you have your TX and RX to go to one of your UARTs. I connected the positive and negative to the VTX power supply, which is a filtered 12 volt, and then I connected the TX and the RX to UART 3. Then in the configurator I went to the ports tab and enabled MSP on UART 3. The last thing on my list is that the Shark Byte receiver has a built-in DVR, and the way this works as default is it is set to auto record as soon as an image is received. And as you can see from the DVR image you're watching right here, it also includes your on-screen display, which I know is something that is lacking with the DJI digital system. So we'll just take a look at the range that I'm getting on this system. Here I'm 3.3 kilometers out at an altitude of 75 meters. I like to try and make sure that I don't go any more than 120 meters above ground level. And as you can see, it's starting to break up very much like analog, as I mentioned earlier. The signs are there that the image is going to be lost at some point soon. I should probably mention at this point I'm also using the VAS pepper box mounted to the Shark Byte receiver, although I didn't really find that it increased the range over the standard patches that are built into the receiver. At this point, around 3.8 kilometers, I decided to turn around as the image was getting quite bad. Considering this is operating on 5.8 gigahertz and is only 200 milliwatt, I didn't think I'd actually get this far. So I was quite pleasantly surprised with that. And on the way back, even flying really nice and low at around 2.5 kilometers, the picture is still quite clear. So a few of the things I'm not so keen on. The first one being this constant breakup. You can see there's always some dots on the screen and you just can't get rid of them no matter how close to home you are. The next thing is you'll see the flashing image at the moment and the kind of strange orange colours in the sky. I think that's probably more down to the RunCam Nano than it is the Shark Byte system, but it's something worth mentioning anyway. Then I have a few issues around the OSD. The first one I'll mention, because it's on the screen now, is the flight summary. And basically it's just missing some of the key piece of information that I like to see, such as the efficiency and the total distance covered. And it's also strange that the fly time is listed there, but it's blank. While you're actually flying as well, I find that the numbers can glitch quite a lot and sometimes are quite hard to read, even when you're very close to home and getting no interference. The next thing is, if you look at the altitude on the right, you'll realise it only displays 2 digits. So once it goes above 100, you'll see that the last digit is missing. The same happens with your milliamp usage reading as well. So at the moment it says 194 milliamps, but I think I've actually used 1940 something. So the last thing to note on the OSD is that there is a reduced amount of items that you can use in Shark Byte in comparison to analog. So on the right hand side, that's my analog OSD. And actually when I changed to Shark Byte, I didn't change my OSD settings at all. So anything that is missing on the Shark Byte image on the left that is present on the one on the right, it just means that it's not compatible with Shark Byte. So if we look around the OSD, you can see in the top left corner, I'm missing the total flight distance, the flight time, my flight mode. At the bottom and middle, I'm missing the system message. I haven't got an artificial horizon or the ladders. On the left hand side, I'm missing my throttle percentage, which is also a very strange one because actually the throttle percentage does appear until you arm and then it disappears. And then I'm also missing my roll and pitch angle on the right hand side. To be fair to Fat Shark, it does seem like they're listening to the community and they are adding new OSD items through firmware updates. I'm currently running the 20th of Feb 21 firmware. There has been a newer version since then, which is on the 10th of April 21. This supports a canvas mode, but unfortunately you can't activate that in iNav. So when upgrading to that version, I lost my OSD altogether. So I reverted back to the 20th of Feb 21 firmware and my OSD is good again. So I thought while I'm doing my summary, I'll just stick some DVR up side by side of Shark Byte and analog. Now, although I feel like Shark Byte is clearer, sometimes I look at the analog feed and I don't feel like there's much difference. In fact, sometimes the analog can look a bit sharper. So it's quite a confusing one. I feel like the Shark Byte is a lot clearer when you're closer to items. For me, unfortunately, there isn't a big enough improvement in the image on Shark Byte to warrant me moving over from analog, losing my OSD items that I like, and losing the range and the ability to fly nice and low like I can with analog. After flying around with the Shark Byte for a short while and then switching to the analog and flying the mini crosswind around, the one thing that struck me straight away really was that I always have a crystal clear image. There's no kind of interference or speckles across the screen unless you really start to push the range. Although I was quite pleasantly surprised with the range on the 200 milliwatt Shark Byte, it still feels fairly restrictive when you compare it to the freedom you get with flying analog. So trying to think who this would be right for if you're flying a fixed wing. And to be honest, I think that if you are someone that doesn't fly very far, you already have some good goggles that you can mount the receiver to, and you don't want to shell out the money for the DJI system. I think as long as you meet all three of those, then the Shark Byte is definitely an option worth considering. But if you don't meet all three of those, then there's probably an alternative system for you. So this was just me having a chat about my experience of Shark Byte on a iNav fixed wing. Everybody has different requirements and different opinions, so hopefully this video has helped you work out if this is something that you should look into further. Thanks for watching.